Welcome. Order on May 12th. This is Independent School District 832, the Montemedia Public School District. And this is a special board meeting. Roll call of attendance, please.
Done.
Now we will move to approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Kevin,
Second.
seconded by Paul. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And now we'll move to action items.
Do you want the guiding change up to be able to reference it at all?
If that benefits everyone, that'd be okay. So 2 weeks ago, we met about the possibility of exploring a cooperative agreement for girls hockey. At that time, it had been with a different school, and that school is no longer pursuing a cooperative agreement for next hockey season. Since then, I've had discussions with other schools and exploring that and finding a good collaborative partner in Roseville, and acknowledging also, I hear the concerns from our families, and I've met with our families, and will apologize for the perceived lack of seeking input, but also have to acknowledge that there are multiple schools and programs in the very same situation that are looking for cooperative agreements. And my priority is finding a place for our high school female hockey players to play next season. And too much activity could jeopardize that as far as other schools pairing up and us being left out without a place for our girls to play next year. Roseville will be a very nice fit for us to form a brand new program for at least 2 years. And I do acknowledge that historically, cooperative agreements do not dissolve. But that is not our goal. Our goal is to get back to an independent girls hockey program when we are able to support a program with the numbers and goaltending. We talked about inside out coaching at the last board meeting. The activities director at Roseville High School is Andrea Schmidt. She is part of the same inside out coaching cohort that I have attended for the last 5 years. Roseville is an inside out coaching school. So they share the same core values as far as what they center their student experience on for athletics and activities. So that's exciting. We speak the same language per se as far as when it comes to purpose and goals for our student athletes in competition. Everything else from the guiding change document remains the same. Concerns that have come up are practice locations on a day-to-day basis. We are seeking out ice time between Montemedia High School and Roseville Area High School. There will be practice sessions at Roseville Ice Arena. They currently have been practicing at Oscar Johnson, which is down by the State Fairgrounds. We will not be practicing there. We will not be transporting or sending our kids to practice at that arena. So finding an alternate location other than that will be a priority, and we're very confident that will be done if the school board agrees to move forward. Any questions?
Thank you, Aaron, for the additional information this evening. You just mentioned that there would be times our girls would need to practice at Roseville Ice Arena. How will transportation be handled at that point for girls to get to that arena?
So current practices, both our boys and girls programs make their own ways to practice. So we're on a 3-week rotation where one gender will be in Stillwater for 3 weeks and the other gender will be generally at a Ramsey County facility. whether that's Shoreview Ice Arena, TCO. They'll be practicing there. Right now, there are not plans to change that practice of the student athletes and families getting their kids to practice.
Thank you.
Thanks, Erin, for the summary. One of the comments I heard you say is that your goal is to provide an opportunity for all girls to be able to play hockey and that there aren't any girls left out with this cooperative. Is that accurate?
Completely, yes. So we've also been involved with and meeting with both youth associations, and both youth associations have the desire to co-op at the youth level to provide opportunities for U15s. So that would be our current, or that would be 8th and 9th graders playing hockey.
Follow up to that would be if this co-op does not move forward with Roseville. I know we saw White Bear is not interested any longer. If this co-op does not happen with Roseville, what do you see as our plan B?
We need to find another school to co-op with. So we do have a specialized position issue where we're not able to have a high school girls program next season without goaltenders. And we cannot recruit athletes from other schools. If a student a high school student open enrolls, they are not varsity eligible for the next calendar year. So we have obstacles there.
I have a couple questions and some comments, and I don't know how many you want me to give because I've got a few here. So, but I don't want to take everybody else's time, but just a comment. Some years ago, I don't know how many now, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, we, the board, watched this thing called Why We Play from the Minnesota High School League. And I'm wondering, is that something, I mean, this is just this stuff that I think what we're talking about brings up some bigger questions about athletics in general, and maybe specifically towards female athletics. But I'm just thinking that maybe that's something we want to consider as a board, watching have a review cycle of that, because it's a pretty powerful video. And what I learned when I watched it today in preparation for this meeting is that 3% of student athletes leaving high school, 3% going to 2-year, 4-year, some kind of school where they actually have sports, 3% do college sport, less than 1% go pro. We've got a couple of great examples in baseball where we've had some great pros, but generally that's not the thing. And so then the question is, if we have that kind, if the idea is playing sport to get to a certain level of competence in a college or professional standpoint, it's not, the odds are not great. I mean, if we're a business, we probably wouldn't do that, right? But of course, from this and some of the other materials out there, the idea is that we're providing and instilling values of collaboration and teamwork and how we problem solve and adversity and hard work and all those things, those real life skills. I think that's the thrust of some of this kind of material, is that these are wonderful life skills that we would instill in our kids. And I think the last time we talked was I'd asked about the trend of female athletics in Montemedia, and you had at that point, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seemed like there was a trend that was declining and that maybe we were seeing that in multiple sports. Is that fair still, or?
Yet we are healthier than our neighbors as far as female participation numbers. Yeah, so the concerning trend is if you go back 10 years, the levels of play that, say, the Metro East Conference offered at softball or basketball there was more levels of play being offered 10 years ago than there is today. We are not unique in girls hockey in the need to seek out a cooperative partner, because those numbers continue to decline across the metro and state. The goal, but again, the goal for us is to be independent again. I do not know when that will happen. That is the goal.
Does someone else want to, I have some more, so I don't want to, again, if someone else has. You want me to keep going? All right. So it was mentioned, the co-op, that it's a 2-year stint. You know, if we do this, we're signing up for 2 years, right?
Yep.
And so, as mentioned, and others have mentioned, that generally once this starts, it doesn't stop. But now from you tonight, you're talking about that, you know, the goal is to get back to having independent Montemedia girls hockey. How will we evaluate when the program is
That's a really good question.
healthy? What is the timeline for that, you know, measuring of, are we looking in 1 year evaluating and then 18 months and then maybe if, you know, it sounds like if we get some goalies, we maybe will be in a better position, but I'm just wondering about that process and if you had thought about that.
Yes. And yes, if we get goalies, we'll be in a better position. So in an ideal world, a minimum, you have, in an ideal world, you have 3 goalies in a high school program. You can run it with 2. And then you want to make sure ensuring that you have goalies at each 15U team below. So there are different variables to that. And you need to look across, you know, 8th through 12th grade and forecasting where we're at. We're developing skaters at a much higher rate than we're developing goalies right now.
I guess what I'm a little bit feeling is this idea that, you know, maybe a work study at some point to be determined where we kind of dig into some of this a little bit more. Because right now we're being reactionary. We're faced with a thing, we have to make a decision. And, you know, over time, and I've got the benefit of having the most seniority on the board, over time, we've had situations come up and they seem to be more involving of female sport than the guys. And so I'm curious about that a bit. And are there some things that would be helpful to have a guiding change document just overall to kind of just look at this as a thing? Because I know at least 3 things that have kind of bubbled up. And so again, I'm just kind of the thoughts that I've had from working with this. We've had some other ones as well, as you obviously are having to put up with. So.
Aaron, I have one comment and one question for you. And the comment is that, you know, ultimately, I hope that our girls can play at the right level that fits where they should be playing for skill wise. And, you know, I want us to not only have an enjoyable experience for the athletes, but also find some success as well. I know that we've struggled with this at the youth level for a number of years, trying to survive essentially based on numbers. And I really wanted us to survive. I wanted us to stay as Mahtomedi from the beginning. The position we're at, though, I think it's really incredibly difficult to stay as Mahtomedi. I think that building a program and making something that feels at least sustainable for 2 years to get us to the point where girls feel as though not only they're playing at the right level, they have success. Again, change is hard. And so there's going to be some bumps in the road and how to navigate those, bringing different communities together. I personally played on a high school team that was before there was high school hockey, where we had girls coming from all different communities and we made one team, because that's all that was available at the time. I thought it was going to be terrible. It was the best experience I've ever had in my life. And some of my lifelong friends that now live all over the country and the world are from that program. And so I'm hopeful for the fact that we could build something pretty amazing and not really be holding on by a thread, which I felt like we've kind of been hanging on by a little bit. But my question for you, I guess, Aaron, is if we move forward, or, you know, whatever that decision is, if we move forward with Roseville or whoever that is, I just really hope that, can you make an opportunity for the girls to provide feedback in this process as they go through this. The girls that have been in the program since they were little girls putting on skates to the girls that are currently high school players to get feedback. So we know that we're doing the right thing for those girls.
Yes. And are we talking about the identity of a new program?
I think there's a lot of things, right? It's the identity. They want to be a Zephyr, but maybe if they're not going to be a Zephyr, how can they still have that school pride? How can they also, there's going to be some bumps in the road when you bring together girls from two different communities, and Montemedia will sit on one side of the locker room and Roseville will sit on the other. And how do you build relationships and making sure that we have the right, obviously the school, it's not the school board's position as far as coaches and things like that. That's yours. But I mean, I think that's really critical that they have someone that can bridge those and bring those two communities together, and getting feedback from the girls about their experience in this co-op, because I think there's going to be good things and there's going to be learning things. And I think that hearing from the athletes will be really important for us to know as we look after 2 years. Do we continue this, or do we really try and go back to our own independent program? Because hopefully we can get there. And so I guess what I was asking is there a way to include the athletes in
Yeah.
this process?
So, yes, in the next step, if approved, would be to start forming a cohesive team identity that's developed by the current students. So the plan is not to compete under Mahtomedi or Roseville Mahtomedi or Zephyr Raiders or vice versa. It's to form a new identity developed by the student athletes. And we're talking about a mascot logo. We're talking about a color scheme, unique, and that represents our current student athletes playing hockey, and something that they can be proud of, our communities can get behind, and we can look forward to. And I can also say that there are discussions, and I'm very confident that that identity that is developed by the student athletes will be adopted by the youth associations co-op at the 15s level as well, to provide that synergy between the youth experience and the high school experience.
So in the last 2 years, I think we've all experienced the feeling like parents share feedback, and whoever doesn't get their way feels like they haven't been heard. And I think that we have really taken to heart what we've heard all the parents come and share. And, no one's on a school board because they don't care about the kids' experience. And we all care that female athletes get the same access as the male athletes. That said, I'm having a really hard time imagining this happening to the boys team. And, as someone who started kindergarten in 1971 and was a total female athlete, things like this enraged me when I was in high school. And, I feel the pain that these girls that are in high school have to be feeling like they're feeling like their opportunities are being taken away from them. And, when I read all of this again, I just say, I'm sorry to the athletes for what they feel they're losing. And I just wish that this would not happen again. I wish that there was better communication. I don't know where it broke down, if it's the hockey association or the school, or it can't be a surprise what's happening here. All the work we've done with Inside Out, this just kind of piggybacks on it. Kevin saying he'd like to have a study session to talk about this later, but what does Inside Out look like for our coaches? I mean, I know what I've heard. I see how Inside Out fits very well with our strategic plan. But the letters that we're getting from the parents, it seems unclear that some of our coaches are following Inside Out. What is Inside Out? Purpose-based athletics, creating a community of belonging, civility, mentoring, guidance, creating better human beings. I mean, it's all the best parts of sports. It's caring about academics first. Clearly defined values for a team. You know, we're trying to create better human beings. And, you know, that's what, yes, we want to see kids who work hard on a team and commit to their teammates, but the goal is fun first. So, I mean, that's what hurts to read about, that it doesn't necessarily feel like that's been the experience. And so I don't know what we do to help support. So the inside out experience is more what our athletes experience, especially the females. And I think that female coaches bring out the best in female athletes. So, I mean, those are just comments, but I don't know how we support you to help that be a healthier situation for our female athletes. So I don't even know what you can say to me. So
I appreciate it though.
I'd just like to follow up on what Julie said. We have heard from a lot of parents, and I think we're all really struggling with this because we don't feel like there's a perfect answer. And I trust that you've done your best to find the best answer of the choices that are available. I think part of what we've heard is the communication issue, and parents, there's a lot of emotion tied to this. So I know that you met with parents earlier tonight. Do you feel like the communication has been, there's now a better understanding? You've started your comments with, some acknowledgement of that. So just want to close the loop on that and ask if you feel like going forward, we can go forward and know that you've touched base with these parents and there's some understanding as to the tough situation and there's acknowledgement of where they're coming from too.
Yes, and many great points have been made. And I sympathize with all of the concerns that have been brought forward. I go back to, I have an obligation to make sure that our kids have someone to play at the high school level next year. And after today, there are other communities that now know that Montemedia and Roseville want to form a cooperative agreement together. And if we don't, there'll be other communities approaching Roseville or vice versa going forward. And that could put us in a bind for our female hockey players next season and the following year.
So Aaron, the board is asked to make a vote tonight on the agreement, and our choices are yes or no. And the yes is the apparent piece of, oh, then we have this agreement, we do these things. If the vote is no, what is the ramifications to the students and our hockey players? Does it mean there's no team at all next year?
No, it does not. It means that I have to find a different compatible school to offer to fill a roster with appropriate positions.
So without an agreement with any district, there is no hockey team next year because we don't have the players to fill the roster. That's what I'm asking.
We could co-op at a U19 association or Minnesota Hockey. That's not state high school league, but we would have to find goalies outside of our community.
So if we want to stay in the Minnesota High School League with hockey, our choice is to co-op with someone or not play because we don't have the roster. Is that a fair summary?
We are missing crucial positions.
Right. We don't have the roster, so we would not be able to safely play our girls in a team without a co-op.
Correct.
Thank you.
So both school boards would have to agree in the affirmative for this to work. Is that right? So right now you're at this point where you've got kind of an understanding between ADs and staff that this is something that could work.
So to be clear on that, the state high school league does not require that it's goes through a board approval. It's best practice to do that. So the next step, if we get through, if this board approves, the next step is going to be contacting the ADs at Region 4 AA schools, where a majority of those schools have to approve.
Are you sure? No one else wants to
No one
go?
else raised their hand.
So in thinking about that inside out philosophy, I sat on our region committee for a while. Do you know what % of our region subscribes to that philosophy, who would look at this and say, oh, they're doing it for the right reasons. They're using the inside out coaching model. It's what's best for kids. And they would be approved. Are you concerned about not being approved at the region level?
I'm not.
Okay, thank you.
Aaron, do you feel confident, if we were to make this decision here tonight, that all of your resources have been exhausted as far as making sure we did not have the appropriate number of players to field a team safely, especially obviously, like you're saying, specialized position like goalie?
Yes.
Oh,
I used to have a long list, but a lot of good questions have been asked and the answers have been provided. So thanks, Aaron. I echo the sentiment that, we've been, this sucks, right? We've been backed into a decision, to take your words, Kevin. We're really backed into this decision because we can't field a hockey team at the high school level without a co-op, correct? And your job, as is, I think, the school board, is to provide an opportunity for these kids to play high school hockey next year. I mean, that's the short term. The long-term solution is, and I'm really encouraged to hear that the goal is to get back onto our feet and become independent once again. I think that goal has to be kept at the forefront if this decision were to move forward to co-op. I like the idea of having to put some meat on those bones. What does that mean? Are we going to have metrics involved to evaluate what that's going to take to become independent again, so that we keep that goal in our mind and we're working towards that going forward as a long-term sustainable solution. You mentioned that this is not new. It is the trend. I think there's one school in this whole state of Wisconsin that's not co-op, and that's Hudson. And my niece is the high school goalie on that team, so I empathize with, they've struggled with this as well. They've been able to keep their head above water, but I'm not so sure, or they're not so sure how long they're going to be able to maintain this either. So this hits home with me as well. So if this were to move forward, I really want to see a commitment that we keep that goal to become independent once again at the forefront, and we put some meat on those bones as to what it's going to take to get there. And if that's a complete review of the process from the youth level up to the high school, with all the great input that you've received from parents as well as to how we might be able to get there. I think that's going to be key to moving forward. But this is tough, and we're backed into this decision, or else these girls are not going to have an opportunity at all next year. So no questions because they've been answered, but thanks for your answers.
Are there any other questions for Aaron? Lucy?
I just want to say one last thing, Aaron. I really appreciate all the work that's gone into this. I know there's no perfect outcome, and working with community and working with kids and working with coaches all has challenges, and you've taken those on very nicely and professionally. And I really appreciate the way you're thinking about new identity. So it's not, a subset, and it's sort of Zephyrs and it's sort of Raiders, but it's a new identity. And I think that'll be a very good way for this group of girls to build their team and their time together. So I really appreciate that's been thought out, because it will be a difficult transition for everyone involved. But the way you're thinking about it ahead of time and approaching the work, I think is really important. And I appreciate the time you're taking to do that and share that with us. So thank you.
Thank you, Erin. We appreciate it. Now we will move for approval. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Julie for approval of the Girls Hockey Cooperative. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Kevin. Discussion. Does anyone want to discuss this or? Oh, Kevin. Thank you.
I think the heart of all this is we really want to do best by our student athletes. I mean, that's what this all comes down to. What is the best for our student athletes? And where that is sometimes hard to figure out. But I know that we're here because we have the best interest in our student athletes. Not a easy decision. One that necessity we make at this time. Would like to see probably measure going back to Montemedia female hockey. I'd like to hear that at some point. So.
I just reiterate what Kevin said, is that it's our job to provide the opportunities for our athletes. And I think that the information we've been given shows that to provide the opportunity, this is what we need to do now.
One more thing, I think that this also provides us a great opportunity, if this passes, for us to have a stronger connection between the youth and the high school programs, to be able to know what's coming and be able to forecast and see this and have a stronger connection. I think that this conversation could have happened months ago, could have maybe seen this coming. Obviously, we had a recent change in someone leaving the district. However, I think that the partnership between youth and high school being stronger could have really helped us know that this was happening.
Yeah, I would just like to add, I think all excellent points that have been made tonight, and agree with the fact I've learned a lot. I wasn't familiar with what was happening with girls hockey, and really want to make sure that we are following through on ensuring the inside out coaching and making sure that we're hearing about the positive impact that sports are in our community, and we're ensuring that it's an important part of a student's life. Obviously, we want them to succeed academically, but we know this is an important piece too. So I think as we go forward, I think we will all be more mindful of that, and we'll be more intentional about ensuring that we're more in tune to the programming here. Paul.
I do have a question, and maybe Barb, you can address it. So Lucy brought up a good point about transportation. The fact that it's currently not our practice to transport students to practice. Given this, if this were to move forward, given this new setup, is that something that the school could do if we were able to find a way for that to work?
Could do. I think our issue is just buses and availability of buses. I know that's been a real challenge for us with activities this year, and it required. Well, if you want to be specific about it, then yes, go to the.
So right now with buses, we have a certain quota of drivers available to us every day for activities, and it does not reach the number of trips or teams we have going every day. So you will see coach buses taking our student athletes places. It's not because we're looking to transport them in luxury. It's because we can't find drivers for school buses. And those companies are booked out months in advance. And a lot of times we're getting calls back that, trying to look for 4 or 5 bids and they're all booked. So the challenge there is finding bus drivers.
So if that were to change, because we do have that on our agenda later, there might be an opportunity. Mhm.
So as the parent of a past swimmer, the swim and dive team captain parents have worked in various different ways in signing a contract where in the past they've had, now we're at the Y or we're other places, but we used to drive way over by Afton and the captain job was to find a bus contract and they would take the girls way over there, and now that's changed, but if we have a bus company, which, the bus company driver situation has changed, but that is something that has fallen on captains' parents in the past to try to organize for teams too. Because the swim team really did have quite a commute for quite a long time.
Kevin?
Well, I mean, this brings up a good question that I don't think we could probably answer tonight, but just if there are students that don't have transportation, car or something of that nature, I'm assuming there's a process in place so that no one is left out. I mean, we could talk about that at some point, but I think it's a conversation piece we should have at some point. Not everybody has a car.
Kelly?
All right, I thought I was done with comments, but it made me think of one more based on the emails we got in the last few days. And so there's been some, I guess, some concern in the emails that we were seeing about, with the identity piece, knowing that we're not going to be Montemedia, we're not going to be Roseville, we're going to be a new identity. And I guess thinking about like moving forward with who is going to be sort of in charge of that program or the coaching of that. And I've seen in some of the emails some concerns about, would this be Montemedia coaches? Would this be Roseville coaches? Would this be new coaches? Julie's saying for female athletes, we want to see a female coach. I feel like we have an opportunity here to, as a new identity, to potentially have a new identity that, we have. And I'm not saying anything one way or the other about Montemedia or Roseville coaches. I'm saying that it's sort of leveling the playing field. I can see how parents are concerned about, if I have a Montemedia athlete, are the Roseville coaches going to be the ones that are going to be selected? If I'm a Roseville parent, is it going to be the Montemedia coaches? I think we need to be aware of the fact that, like, if this is a new identity, I don't know about the rest of you, but I saw that in emails to me and text messages about what is our new identity with that coaching staff as well. Again, not board work, so I'm excited for Aaron's position on that.
Are there any other comments or questions? Or are we ready to move to a vote? All right, I'll just ask for all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, the motion carries. Now I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Lucy, seconded by Julie. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.